They say fear is the greatest weapon in football, and no one used it better than Ray Lewis. Opposing quarterbacks flinched, running backs second-guessed, and in the middle of it all stood a man who didn't just play linebacker, he owned it. But how good was he, really? Because beyond the bone-crushing tackles and fiery speeches, there's another side to the story. The controversy, the whispers, the moments that nearly erased everything he built. So today, we're going to break down the full picture, the dominance, the drama, and the debate that still splits fans to this day. Was Ray Lewis a once-in-a-generation monster on defense, or a myth inflated by hype, headlines, and a whole lot of fear? Before the stadium lights, before the Super Bowl rings, Ray Lewis was just a kid from Lakeland, Florida, growing up in a house full of questions and pressure. His father wasn't around, and by his teens, Ray had taken on the role of protector for his siblings. He even dropped his birth name, Raymond Wiggins, and took the last name of the man who stepped up in his life, his mom's boyfriend. That moment wasn't just symbolic, it was personal. It was fuel. On the wrestling mat, he was dominant. On the football field, ferocious. College scouts came calling, and he chose the University of Miami, the U, right in the middle of its swagger-soaked glory days. By his sophomore year, he was already one of the most feared defenders in the NCAA. But when draft day came in 1996, teams hesitated. Too small, too emotional, too intense. He didn't go in the top 10. He didn't even go in the top 20. The Ravens, just starting out as a brand new franchise, took him with the 26th pick. And that chip on his shoulder? It never left. What came next wasn't just about proving people wrong. It was about making sure no one ever doubted him again. Ray Lewis didn't just put up numbers. He rewrote what greatness looked like at middle linebacker. Over 17 seasons, he racked up more than 2,000 career tackles, and those are just the officially recorded ones. He snagged 31 interceptions, forced 19 fumbles, and added 41.5 sacks. Stats that sound more like a hybrid safety than a traditional linebacker. Two-time Defensive Player of the Year, 13 Pro Bowls, Super Bowl MVP. And when the Ravens won their first title in 2000, Lewis didn't just lead the team, he anchored a defense so dominant they outscored opposing offenses over the entire season. That year, Lewis had 3 picks, 3 sacks, and a pick 6 in the playoffs that sealed his MVP trophy. Analysts say his performance in 2000 alone would have built most players a Hall of Fame case. But for Lewis, that was just chapter 1. And while the numbers told one story, his presence told another. Because when Ray Lewis stepped on the field, everything changed. You didn't just watch Ray Lewis, you felt him. Every time he stepped onto the field, the energy shifted. Whether it was the pre-game speeches that gave grown men goosebumps, or the iconic squirrel dance entrance that lit up entire stadiums, Ray wasn't just a linebacker, he was the emotional engine of the Baltimore Ravens. Coaches called him the quarterback of the defense. Teammates? They called him the pulse. He didn't just rack up tackles, he diagnosed plays like a surgeon, reading offenses before the snap even happened. And when it mattered most, in the playoffs, he leveled up. Ray still holds the record for the most postseason tackles in NFL history. In the 2000 Super Bowl run, Baltimore's defense gave up a single touchdown in 4 games. Lewis was everywhere, smashing gaps, dropping into coverage, baiting quarterbacks into mistakes. And in 2012, when most thought his career was over, he came back from a torn tricep at age 37, just in time for one final run. One last Super Bowl, one last speech, one last ride. But as his legacy soared, something else was building in the background. Something darker. Just weeks after winning Defensive Player of the Year in 1999, Ray Lewis's story took a violent turn. On the night of January 30th, 2000, hours after a Super Bowl party in Atlanta, 2 men were fatally stabbed during an altercation outside a nightclub. Witnesses claim Lewis and 2 friends were involved. All 3 were arrested and charged with murder. The headlines exploded. The NFL's fiercest defender was suddenly at the center of a national scandal. But what made it even more chilling was what never turned up. The infamous white suit Ray Lewis was reportedly wearing that night. Police never found it. To this day, it's never been recovered. After weeks of intense legal pressure, Lewis took a plea deal. The murder charges were dropped in exchange for a guilty plea to obstruction of justice. He testified against his co-defendants and paid a civil settlement to the victims' families. He avoided jail time, but the damage was done. Endorsements vanished, public opinion split. Some saw redemption, others never looked at him the same again. And just when the scandal started to fade, another controversy emerged, this time involving something a little more bizarre. Just when Ray Lewis thought he'd outrun controversy, another one came sprinting out of nowhere. And this time, it was weird. In 2013, days before Super Bowl 47, a Sports Illustrated report dropped a bombshell. Lewis had allegedly used deer antler velvet spray during his injury recovery. Why did that matter? Because the spray supposedly contained IGF-1, a banned substance linked to human growth hormone. The internet exploded. Sports shows couldn't stop talking about it. Lewis didn't just deny the report, he laughed it off. He called it a distraction, pure noise, and insisted he'd never used anything illegal. The NFL launched a quiet investigation, but no suspension ever came. Still, fans were left wondering, how did a 37-year-old linebacker recovering from a torn tricep come back just in time to lead his team through the playoffs and win a Super Bowl? Coincidence? Determination? Or something more? Analysts turned to numbers and tape, trying to make sense of a player who seemed superhuman, even as the doubts never fully disappeared. It's easy to get caught up in the speeches, the tackles, the controversies, but what do the numbers really say about Ray Lewis? Pro Football Focus, known for its brutally honest grading system, gave Lewis a career coverage grade of 91.8, an absurd number for a linebacker. From 2006 to 2010, even as he aged, he remained one of the most efficient defenders in the league. He was named to PFF's All-Decade and 25-year teams, not just for his peak, but for sustained excellence over nearly 2 decades. According to Approximate Value, a stat that measures overall impact, Lewis finished with 224 career AV, higher than most Hall of Fame defenders and even some quarterbacks. Even when you strip away the emotion, the pre-game rituals, and the drama, what's left is still one of the most statistically dominant linebackers ever to play the game. But somehow, numbers alone don't feel big enough to describe Ray Lewis, because even off the field, his presence sparked attention, and not always the kind he wanted. When Ray Lewis retired after his second Super Bowl win in 2013, it felt like the perfect ending. A warrior walking off into the sunset. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2018. First ballot, no hesitation. His speech? Predictably electric, emotional, inspirational, classic Ray. He moved into broadcasting with ESPN's Monday Night Countdown, bringing the same fire to the studio that he brought to the field. But by 2016, his analyst days quietly ended. No formal send-off, no clear reason why. Then more questions started bubbling up. In 2020, the Ray Lewis Foundation, his charity focused on youth and community programs, lost its tax-exempt status due to missed filings. Critics questioned whether the organization was being properly run. Supporters said it was just a clerical slip. And while rumors about coaching gigs and motivational tours popped up, none ever really stuck. Ray had become more of a symbol than a fixture, drifting between legacy and mystery. So now, with the game behind him and the noise fading, one question still remains.